20 million strong city of Shanghai showcases China's economic boom. This city of entrepreneurs has embraced the car culture with gusto. At first, the statistics don't seem so daunting. A nation of 1.3 billion people, but only 14 million cars. But by 2010, there'll be 55 million cars, trucks and buses on the roads. Automakers are overjoyed.
It starts in the biggest cities, but we keep forgetting how many big cities there are in China. You know, there's probably over 100 cities with more than 1 million people.
I believe I can fly.
To own a car in China is to enjoy the good life.
明天就做设计。
Car ads like this one have real power.
I think we need to debunk the American dream of having a car equals to personal freedom. With China having 1/5 of the world's population, this just isn't an imaginable road to go ahead.
Environmental activist Lo Suping says China's environment is already under severe stress. It has 16 of the world's 20 worst polluted cities. Cars are responsible for much of the choking air. So is China repeating the mistakes that everybody else in the world has made?
I mean, it's like we know very clearly by driving a car, you are driving human civilization going over the cliff. Everyone knows that, but we still do it.
Not that long ago, bicycles ruled the roads of China. In the 60s and 70s, people would save for years to buy a bicycle. Millions of people were on the move and the air was still fresh and clean. It's a very different picture today.
The rise of the car has mirrored China's explosion as the world's fastest growing major economy. Today, car ownership is a dream within growing reach of millions of Chinese. It's almost impossible to understand, but if ownership rates here ever equal that of Australia or America, there'll be enough cars to fill a 7-lane highway to the moon.
25-year-old Beijinger Wei Li is a proud first-time car owner. The university graduate works for a foreign technology company and enjoys an improving middle-class lifestyle.
我是在05年的5月份，实际上我在大学刚毕业就特别想买车了，但是由于这个钱的问题，就是一直在努力的挣钱，包括大学3年我也在努力的挣钱。
Wei Li and her husband are family pioneers, the first to own a car. It's meant a lot of their savings and a sizable part of their salaries. But in this status-conscious country, a car shows you've made it.
以前可能都特别羡慕的看见别人才开车，现在我觉得他们在羡慕我。
The narrow roads in the heart of old Beijing weren't designed for the car. But the old has to accommodate the new. Today, Wei Li is visiting her parents-in-law. They're proud of her achievements, but also worried about the new phenomenon of road rage.
还得注意安全
啊，成，我开车慢点就成了。
对，千万别跟人家那儿追着。
不过我脾气有一点不太好，容易跟人家容易跟人比。
不要比，慢慢开。
These are the people driving the market. About 5 million a year are graduating from driving schools. After learning the road rules, students at this school spend 30 hours just manoeuvring back and forth. But it doesn't dampen learners' enthusiasm.
因为我的收入水平已经达到一定程度了，我想买车，所以我要学车嘛。
Students also practice on packed, purpose-built roads where the cars never hit top gear. It's only after they get their licence that they experience real driving conditions. It helps explain why new drivers are commonly called road killers.
Hey, 你好，怎么样?
Getting behind the wheel in China is an experience like no other. Chinese-Australian lawyer Jason Li works for China's new road service.
According to the Chinese culture, you can mortally offend somebody's pride if you put on a seatbelt whilst they're driving. If you do that for a lot of Chinese drivers, it's a sign that you don't trust them. It's a sign that you think that they're a bad driver.
China's roads are among the deadliest in the world. It's estimated that more than 100,000 people die in accidents every year, with many more being injured.
Look, it's a frightening statistic. Really, if you equate it to a simple metaphor, it's roughly a jumbo jet crashing every day.
Andrew Harding runs the China Automobile Association. It's actually an Australian-owned operation that provides roadside service and driver education. As a nation of first-time drivers, China has much to learn.
But we find that we have a much higher breakdown rate and a much higher sort of frequency of breakdown here than we have elsewhere. And it's purely just people not knowing. A lot of it is also just people not understanding how their car works.
The Chinese just don't own more cars, they're making them. Within 2 decades, China is tipped to produce more cars than anywhere else in the world. This GM production line in Shanghai is making variations of its popular Buick Excel.
This is a great time to be here. We'd like to be here by ourselves, but unfortunately everyone wants to compete.
General Motors currently holds pole position in Chinese manufacturing. But more than 100 different local and foreign companies are building cars in China. Foreign companies can only enter China if they have a Chinese partner.
In what other market in the world could someone get away with that? None. China, the ultimate negotiators, they're able to say, you need our market so badly that this is the arrangement. You can come in, you can bring your money and your capital, but oh, by the way, you can only own up to 50%, and in the same city, my other partner will be your competitor. Deal? Beijing's got a rate in the top 3, if not number 1 today in terms of traffic.
Michael Dunn is a car industry analyst from Detroit who's made China home. Despite the cooperation now, he says everyone's gearing up for a battle in the future.
On the one hand, the foreign automaker implicitly understands believes that one day he will take over his Chinese partner. And on the other hand, the Chinese company looks across the table at his foreign partner and says, one day I will have yours, and you may or may not be here in China anymore.
More cars also need more fuel, and China is already struggling to meet its surging energy needs. Some are predicting that within a few years, cars, trucks and buses will account for 60% of China's oil bill. By 2020, it's thought China will consume nearly 9 million barrels of oil a day. That means more pollution. China's thirst is one of the key reasons why world oil prices are at extraordinary heights. Far from trying to restrict the car boom, the government's response has been to build millions of kilometres of new roads. In cities, it means people's homes inevitably go. It's one side of the car boom that people don't usually see. In the coastal city of Tianjin, these people are fighting not to be run over by the advance of the car. The local government wants to destroy their inner city homes to make way for wider roads and a new development. Hundreds of families have already been moved out, but their compensation has been paltry. Protests over forcible evictions are commonplace in China now, and a source of mounting concern for the ruling Communist Party. But the poor invariably lose. This was Ning Kemin earlier this year, struggling for a fair price for her home. She and her husband were unemployed and determined to be treated fairly.
要按国家政策去做，确实这是个好事儿。为什么？提高人的生活水平、居住条件。可是他呢，不按那去做，他利用这个，他图谋利，想踩老百姓，把老百姓踩底下，借老百姓的利益，剥夺他的利益。
But the Chinese government won. A last desperate protest, captured here by mobile phone, was unsuccessful. Ning Kemin and her husband were forcibly evicted.
他们太残忍了，弄得一个好好的家，他们就强行走了，太欺负人了。
Yet for first-time car owner Wei Li, her car means nothing but freedom and opportunity. Wei Li has even joined a car club that's opened up a new social network.
我觉得我们在一起挺好的呀，挺开心的呀，而且还这么多好朋友，能认识不同的人，而且在工作上也有帮助。
The car is allowing Chinese to go places they've never been. The club is visiting an orphanage on the outskirts of Beijing, caring for abandoned, sick children. The greater freedom offered by the car also gives them a greater insight into the hardships endured by many people.
Do you think, though, that perhaps driving a car is some of the freest expression that people have in China?
And that is part of the attraction. That is partly why cars have taken China by storm, because it is a symbol of freedom. It is a symbol of economic development. It is a symbol of having made it and being able to enjoy that freedom.
The rise of the car is a dream realised for millions of Chinese.
Yet it poses a huge challenge to the world's environment, energy supplies, and it promises to reshape the global auto industry. But the car is muscling its way through China, and it seems nothing can get in its path.